So yeah, I currently work for Revolve. I've been here 5 years. Prior to Revolve, I spent 5 years in national roles at Amazon. Before joining Amazon, I spent 10 years in Asia, leading market entry and expansion strategy for established startup companies. In terms of Revolve's core value proposition is one, Revolve has been recognized as the launching pad of emerging brands. We offer very large assortment to customers. In the U.S. specifically, it's the selection that's what drives customer to our site. It's also the service that we offer to our customers, as well as our ability to engage with our customers through social media channels.
Yeah, you've talked about how consumer, when they first hit or hear about Revolve in China, the sales cycle is probably much longer than it is in other parts of the world, in particular in the US. Can you talk to that a little bit?
I think one of the best way to look at it is that when you search Revolve or your brand on a browser, on the bottom, Google's going to tell you, hey, other people who search this term also have similar terms. You can do the same in China on Baidu. And when we search, regardless, it's Revolve or Lehman Marcus or anybody else, particularly in overseas retailers, that they're going to have, you will see terms such as shipping, duty and taxes, authenticity. Those are the major questions that people may have. Those are the questions that need to be addressed before people are willing to open up their pocket to buy something from you. But when you're buying something from overseas, and just like one of my customers in Taiwan told me, said, if you want me to spend $200 to buy something from you, I've never bought anything from overseas for $100. That I have a lot of questions that need to be answered before I open up my pockets.
Today, we're going to just talk a little bit about your experience as it pertains to cross-border e-commerce, in particular logistics, fulfillment. Can you currently tell us what the footprint is for Revolve globally?
We ship to over 150 countries. I probably counted this over a year ago. I'm sure that we're probably added a couple more on our belt. We ship everything out of Los Angeles. We have probably 6 regional return centers across 4 different continents. So yeah, we serve very large part of the world. In the U.S., we can say we're probably one of the best providers in the U.S. 2-day shipping and also free return. But when I think about my customers in Seoul or in Korea, that some fashion will be able to deliver the same day. In Australia, customer through Iconic, they will be able to fulfill the second day. So we're comparatively to the local players, we definitely have certain disadvantages. However, at the same time, the large assortments that we have in the U.S., that advantage almost amplified in overseas market. In over customer overseas is that accessibility that components driving them to our site.
That's perfect. That's very important to understand. Now, it's a little skewed, Kai, your input, because of course, how many packages are you selling globally or shipping globally?
We ship roughly about 700,000 parcels a year, so a lot of them.
What is a tipping point for a company in terms of when they should be putting inventory closer to market, even in market?
I would say there are 4 factors influence the decision if you should position inventory near customers. One is prediction accuracy. How accurate can you predict how much inventory for a specific set of SKUs to store and for how long? It's more of a statistical question. The second one is the opportunity cost of selling those inventory to other regions. Generally speaking, so if you have the stored inventory in this particular location, then you basically lose the opportunity to sell those same inventory to other regions. Generally speaking, the higher the prediction accuracy, the lower the opportunity cost. So those 2 factors are closely related. There are 2 other factors that offset the cost component we just mentioned. One is the benefit of the increase in customer satisfaction. So when you position inventory close to the customer, shipping is faster, delivery date is more predictable, your customer are happier. Hence, your conversion rate is going to be higher. Your repeat rate is going to be higher. Customer lifetime value is going to be increased. So all of this are the positive value that encourages you to split inventory. And of course, this the fourth component is you will be able to save on shipping costs.
So when we're talking about shipping, a lot of companies say, well, I can't get the shipping rates I want because I don't have the volumes, right? Could you talk a little bit about the different ways to ship products globally, that kind of relationship between postal and express?
I think there are three buckets of providers. The first bucket is basically the postal. In the U.S., we're talking about USPS. When you send a parcel here from the USPS, it will be delivered through the postal network, and it will be delivered by, let's say in Germany, a local postal service will be fulfilling the delivery of that particular product or parcel. The postal the postal service is the easiest one to get started because it does not require duty and tax calculation, does not require you being able to classify your product into address code and all that. So it's the easiest place to start. It has the second bucket of providers are, we know as the global carriers, the premium carriers. We're talking about FedEx, DHL, and UPS. And they have very wide network. They provide a premium service. And the drawback of them is that they're very, very expensive. They provide the whole work, including address code classification, duty and tax calculation, duty and collection, and all that. And then there's a third group of carriers, what do we call them, regional players. Those are carriers that they are strong in a specific region. For example, DPD or Hermes, they're really strong in Europe. Toll is very strong in Australia. SF Express is very strong in Asia, etc. Or Aramex is very strong in Middle East. They're one of the biggest disadvantage of those is that they only serve a specific region. So you have to deal with many of them in order to get your global footprint. The advantage of them is that they are very cost effective.
So a company that's taking right now, there's a company that, let's say, has a small amount of volume. Obviously, they can't hit that $10 3-day shipping to UK probably because they're not having higher volume. What you're suggesting in this hybrid regional model is a combination of postal, kind of a USPS type of thing, and express on the last mile.
When Revolve was very small, that over daily volume to certain regions was only a few dozen parcels. And the big global carriers, they didn't want to offer us anything, offer us deep discount. So we work closely with local carriers around the world to build our own customized lane to increase this shipping speed, as well as reduce the shipping cost. So we arrange daily air cargoes. Basically, we rent the airplane space with a minimum of 100 pounds per day from Los Angeles to Sydney, London, and Hong Kong. Once the airplane landed and cleared custom, we then inject the parcel directly into last mile carrier. Because Revolve is a premium product retailer, so we only work with the premium last mile carriers. So in UK, and in Europe, we work with DPD in Hermes. In Australia, we work with Toll. In Hong Kong, we work with SF Express. So this hybrid setup, when I say hybrid, I mean an air cargo plus the last mile premium carrier, enabled us to provide 3 to 4 day transit at a fraction of the cost of the global carriers.
So I understand. So you're talking about there's a logistics company that actually charters, let's say, airplane commercial cargo, and they'll take it not through an express like a DHL, FedEx, UPS,
yes,
but then when they hit the ground, then they'll shoot it off to a last mile express.
Precisely. And you actually don't need to have chartered flight. We basically putting 30 parcels onto a passenger flight that from Los Angeles to London, probably, let's say, with United or British Airways.
Talk a little bit about what a typical return rate might be per region and what's an optimal one.
Yeah, so the return rate in different countries are different. So there's almost like there's a norm for different countries, and the number varies drastically. In Japan, it's known they probably have one of the lowest return rate in the world, In Japan, the return rate, particularly for a fashion industry, we're talking about roughly about 10%. While when you go to Australia, that goes to 35 to 40%. So I always remember on a return topic, I always remember one of my initial meetings with my manager, Mike, over co-founder and CEO. That was 5 years ago, and then he asked me about over return rate in UK, and I said about 15%. And he said that is too low, Kai. Obviously, no one want to have a higher return rate. What he meant was there is a balance between attraction and friction. So inability to return a product, particularly in my world, women's business, women's fashion products, creates purchasing friction. So a low return rate is an indication that our service in the region is less than adequate and prevented the customer from trying our products.
If I get 50% returns as a small business, I don't know where to go.
There's a couple of components, at least 3 components. So the first component is what we call first mile. It's basically from a customer's house or customer's door to your return facility. And you have the second component is local processing. So basically, this is one of the requirements that we put on ourselves. We want a refund of a customer within 7 days from the day she put her return into the mailbox. So we actually process all returns locally in country, so we can refund her faster. So we have a second component, which is we will process return locally. And the third component is shipping from a overseas return facility back into Los Angeles. Again, those are done normally by air cargo. In general, air cargo around the world is much cheaper than shipping directly from an overseas customer to our Los Angeles warehouse.
So what's interesting is when you're asking a question about whether or not you can sell globally because you don't think you can handle returns, what you're saying is there's 2 parts to that. One, economically, you probably should be able to do it. But 2, you should be able to respond to the consumer almost immediately. You said it's 7 days, and give them back their money, even if you haven't gotten the product back into your inventory in the US yet, through a different technology. And I presume you're also localizing your payment structure, right?
Yes, exactly. So we basically have local return facility around the world. That's why we can quickly inspect our product and refund the customer. To your point, that we also transact in 83 different currency. The goal here is that we want to make sure we will be able to refund the customer the exact amount we charged.
Can you say that last sentence again?
Yes. So we also transact in 83 different currencies. And the goal here is really we want to make sure we will charge the customer the exact amount we displayed on our website, and then we'll also be able to refund the customer the exact amount we charged them. Yes.
And what should a small and medium company do when they're saying to their shipping company, hey, how are you going to deal with returns? Because if you're not selling through Amazon, you want to give an option of saying, hey, I want to have my customer be able to print a label or drop it off. Obviously, they don't have Kohl's out there or any of the other drop-off points. What do you suggest?
There are plenty of returns, a huge topic and a huge industry in the world today. I can think of half a dozen companies right at the top of my head. They provide global return services. So it's a very simple. It's a simple task. It's definitely not as hard as we think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what are we talking about numbers-wise? Let's say you've got a $100 product, you just sold it to someone in France, and they returned it.
That's a great way to put it. So for Europe specifically, for fashion business, our average duty rate is 12%. And in France, I believe the VAT rate is 20-some%, let's say 23%. So you're basically out of $35. So your selling price is $100, the customer is actually paying $135. And then when you refund them, you refund them $135, you're out of $35. So that's a huge amount of money there.
But again, so then you're saying, okay, it's going to be processed, brought back to the US, and you're saying, hey, France, I don't owe you $35 because that product didn't stay there. It came back to us. How do you get that back again?
So there are two. We need to separate out the VAT filing and the duty filing. So in UK, there are standard procedures that you will be able to file for duty claims for the products that are being returned. There are other countries have a similar kind of scheme, for example, Switzerland or in Canada. So the many countries supports the e-commerce duty drawback. So that's basically the 12% I was talking about. As for the VAT, which is 20% in Europe, those you can have a VAT representation or physical representation in the country that you will be able to file the VAT. It's similar to what we file sales tax in different states.
Kai, thanks for joining us. Thanks for downloading all their secret sauce around Revolve and global expansion.
Josh, thanks for having me.
We will see you soon. Stay safe, stay well. Say hi to the fam.
Same to you. I hope you will be able to sort out where you're going to be soon.